Yo, you listening to the Oprah Rose Show with TT and Gigi, and yeah, get it poppin'.
Thoughts. Everything begins with thoughts.
She's a slut, she's a hoe, she's this, she's that.
We say to girls, you can have ambition, but not too much.
It's about people being uncomfortable with women owning their sexuality.
What is the truest, highest vision that you hold for yourself?
I'm a real ass bitch, and I'm gonna get everything that I'm gonna get on my own.
I know for sure. You don't get what you wish for. You get what you believe.
Cause I'm up right now.
I just love doing that. Hi guys.
What's up? What's up?
I'm TT.
I'm Gigi.
And I'm still sustainable DD.
Sustainable sis. I love it.
Yeah. Not today. Actually today I don't have on anything that is sustainable.
It's giving Montero today.
But I do have this
Montero
cowboy
DD.
hat. Yeah.
Yeah.
I brought it back. I got it last
But it's not
fall.
a new purchase.
No, I got this last fall. Yeah.
Oh,
And I
okay.
just brought it back.
Okay.
I still consider that to be like sustainability. You aren't buying anything.
And you
new.
have it mixed with a Woo Wear t-shirt. So it's definitely giving
Right.
sustainability.
Yeah. We gotta
'Cause
represent
when the
black
last
brands.
time they put some shit out? No
I
shit.
think they
It's just
started
like-
doing more.
Oh, they're
merch
doing more?
recently.
Okay.
Wait, when did
Yeah.
Woo Wear come out? Was that with FUBU?
Around like late 90s.
Right. So that's like the older, or is that like a newer?
This is a newer one.
Okay.
Yeah, like
All
this
right.
is. But I had this one for some years now.
Yeah, I think you're still safe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they-
like I didn't buy this last week.
yeah. I think it's
In
okay.
his sustainability, keeping his carbon footprint low.
Low.
Yeah,
Low
you're
and very minimal.
I'm drinking out of plastic though. Ugh.
Yeah, it's giving
All right,
hypocrisy,
girl.
but
It's
that's
the
okay.
Oprah Rose Show. Make sure y'all like, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend. Questions, comments, concerns to the Oprah Rose Show at gmail.com. Y'all know where to find us. Anything else you want to add about your sustainability?
Nah, cut the check.
Goodwill specifically.
Goodwill, Lord have mercy. If Goodwill don't cut this check, I swear, like
Y'all got it.
that's why I said we really need to find if they're
I don't
government
know.
fund. If they're
Right.
government funded, they
got
absolutely-
it.
They got it.
They got it. Yeah.
Well, I don't know because the government broke now, ain't they? Don't we run out of
Child,
money
every
in
time-
8 days or some shit?
Every time they try to shut it down, they open it back
They
up.
just gambling with our money.
Are they giving away new PPPs? Because I'm scamming. I'm the scariest person on earth, but like I'm
I think
absolutely.
we missed that boat.
I'm so upset I missed the PPP boat.
Same.
I would be. What would I be doing with my PPP money
I feel like we have this conversation every week.
every week? Because it changes. I don't know. I would take a trip first.
You don't want to invest in cryptocurrency?
Right.
Oh
I
no!
was about
After
to
our
say.
conversation, I'm absolutely investing it. Well, I'm invested in crypto without the PPP.
Irregardless.
Irregardless, investing in crypto. But yeah, maybe more of that.
Okay.
More investment properties.
I hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Make
and a
your
big
money
head.
work for you.
Hello.
Yes. I'm a
the mom is
fan.
just tired. But so we're so excited today.
Yes.
We've just been so informational. I just want to point that out. We are giving the girls game, okay?
Okay.
And girls is obviously gender neutral. So we are giving the girls game. Yeah, it is. Cis is gender neutral.
Oh,
Cis is gender
yeah.
neutral.
Cis is
It
absolutely
could be
CIS.
CIS or
Yeah.
SIS.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's gender neutral.
Yep.
So you learn something new every day.
Genius.
Yeah.
That's genius.
So we have with us therapist Tosin, who's been hitting these podcast streets.
Yes.
Okay.
He is in a hot demand.
He's giving ran through. And no offense to you. It's just like, a little hot pocket.
Not the hot
good.
pocket therapist, which I think is amazing because people, there's so many things that we don't talk about, right?
Right.
Like we just did a episode last week about financial literacy.
Yeah.
We had an episode about just being vulnerable on social media. And it's all these things that it's very easy to just talk about the things that everybody, the same shit that we be talking about on Twitter every day, the $200 dates or whatever the fuck is happening, and not feeding photographers.
Now it has to be $250 dates because inflation.
because of inflation. Wow.
Wow.
Wow. Okay.
$250?
It has to go up.
Is that expensive? Are we talking first dates? We're not having that conversation
Yeah,
again.
I
No.
Yeah.
It's just,
I guess that does seem a little pricey.
I mean,
to me.
$250 is a lot. Yeah.
Depending on where you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
It is
one
a lot.
person to
250 is
pay.
a
For
lot.
one person
Yeah.
to
For one
pay.
person
It
to
is.
pay.
Yeah.
First date where you have no idea what's happening after.
Yeah,
that.
that's a bit. It's a bit
Yeah.
much. Yeah. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
We
That's a leap of faith.
basically we said how we would be if we were all men, and I would be the man that would have the woman pay for me. But and then I think everybody else was like
She was giving
tricking.
bum.
Yeah, I was giving hobosexual. Like I was giving.
She
I
was giving the
totally-
nigga that come to your house on Friday night and dick you down all weekend and leave on Sunday.
Maybe.
Maybe leave on
And
Sunday.
pay for nothing.
And pay for nothing. He don't even get the seamless.
I'm
You
too
getting the
considerate.
seamless?
I was just about to say no. I am way too considerate to not even be like, oh, what do you want? You want some peaches? And I would order like peaches, shrimp,
But
and
you
crab
was
on
asleep
DoorDash.
when Shorty wanted food. So
You said what?
You was asleep because you always
No, I'd be
sleeping.
up. I can't really sleep at other people's houses like that. So I'd
okay.
be up.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. But anywho, to Tosin, therapist, how are you?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
for
I'm excited for you to be on because I feel like also in therapy you don't see many black men
Yes.
At all.
As therapists,
as therapists.
very few.
Very
Very
few,
few.
yeah.
Very few. And they're all booked up.
Oh, I'm sure.
Very few.
Because I think a part of like going to therapy is the need to relate to somebody.
100%.
Especially if you are a black male, it's easier to talk to another black male because you have those ideas of like, you get me.
Right.
And so it just feels more like talking to a friend.
Right. You save time trying to explain certain things because you assume that the therapist already knows.
Is that a,
Yeah.
Is that a good thing or a bad
That's
thing?
a good thing.
I think
a
it's
thing.
good. I would never
Familiarity.
get a therapist that was not a black person.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not
Same.
even. It's
Culturally,
that's a-
it's like oil and water culturally.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I don't really code switch anyway, but I don't want to have to explain some type of like cultural or like slang term
Right.
to somebody,
That's a
and
big
not
deal
just
as
eating
well.
up my time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The 3 minutes that I had to explain something that was of cultural reference to
Right.
you. You know.
Yeah, why I gotta do
could-
all of that?
No,
You're wasting time, like you
No.
said.
Absolutely.
I'm
That is a
paying
waste
you
of time.
to be here with me, not for me to educate you on
Right.
what this slang word means. Anyway,
So what
Very
made you
true.
decide to go into therapy and be a therapist?
It's funny. My first job was working as a case manager at a foster care agency, and I got that because I had recently got fired from Nike Town.
wow, on 57?
Yeah, this is a long time ago, so don't even try to figure out the date. So I got fired. I had no idea what I was doing. I graduated undergrad. This was like around 2010, and I had no idea what I was gonna do. So I called a friend. She was like, "Hey, I have somebody. My aunt is the executive director here. Go holler at her." So I get there. I'm working there, and I realize that there's definitely a glass ceiling. Like if I don't have my master's in social work, there's not much I can do. I'm gonna be a case manager, not even a therapist or a social worker. So I said, okay, let me go back to school. So that's really how it began. It was like out of necessity, and then I got into classes, and I started to enjoy what I was doing. But then I actually, my biggest lesson that I learned during this process was that I never want to work in a foster care setting because it was so depressing.
Oh.
It was really depressing. Very little achievements, very little adoptions. It was a drain. But I knew I wanted to work with children on some levels, but just not in that field in
Yeah.
foster care. Yeah,
I'm sorry, that's sad.
it's very sad.
That
It's very
is,
sad.
yeah.
It's
Because
very
we even
sad.
talked about last night. We were having drinks at the bar, and we were talking about foster care a little bit. So
Yeah, and I said I actually want to adopt at some point, and I said specifically an older child.
Because they don't get adopted.
They don't
Yeah.
get adopted, and I would want to be able to provide somebody with a good life and love.
Yeah.
You know, so
It's very sad watching the cycle repeat
Yeah.
itself.
And also my uncle, he has, I guess, you know, he essentially planted the seed because he utilized his home as a foster care home, and he's adopted multiple kids that he has, you know, brought into, and we've always considered them family.
Right. Bless
And
them.
it's been very like seamless, you know, so
Yeah.
it was like the thought to me, like it was, you know, like, oh yeah, I should do this, you know.
I love that.
It takes a big heart to adopt.
Yeah.
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 So then you obviously studied, and then you became a therapist.
I became a therapist, yeah.
Okay. And what is and you specialize in
Trauma.
Okay.
So when I say trauma, I mean anything that's happened in the past that's affecting your daily routine, like your daily life, your well-being, anything that is affecting you in any way, shape, or form can be considered trauma.
How did you come about picking that specific lane of focus? Do you think that essentially kind of came from your experience from working as a case manager in the foster care system?
It did. That's a very good question. I never considered that, but it definitely did. When I think about it now and I look at everything that I've done, it definitely is, because there's trauma in every step of the way. So it was foster care. There's a lot of trauma there. After that, I went to supportive housing, where I was working with adults who had mental health issues and were homelessness. Had severe homelessness and substance abuse problems. It's a lot of trauma there. And then actually what really solidified it is when I started working at a high school as a high school social worker, and I realized that there was a different level of trauma. It's not just being a drug abuser or being in prison. It was like growing up without having a dad, right? Or growing up and your mom is on drugs, or growing up and not being able to afford certain things that you see your friends having. And then racial trauma, the stuff that we deal with on a regular basis when we turn the news on. Generational trauma, I call it generational curses. We can get into that a little bit later as well. So, and then I also work with this organization called Men Healing, and we work specifically for male identified survivors of sexual abuse. So we go all over the states, and we just we facilitate workshops and help them build community, and we do a whole weekend of different activities. So that's like really what solidified it. There's so many different areas when it comes to trauma. Yeah.
Especially as Black people.
We have a lot of trauma.
I mean, you were listing off all those things that it's just so common, you don't really think of them as, I'm doing air quotes, trauma.
Normal how we was raised.
It's just like it is what it is.
Right. It's very much it is what it is.
And when you do these therapy sessions with people who have faced these traumas, how are you able to kind of like separate listening to their story and it not actually affecting you?
I don't have an answer for that, bro. I really, I come home from a long day of work. I have sessions, like crazy traumatic sessions, and I just lay on the couch, I watch TV, I talk to my girl, I play with my son. I don't know. I might have been made to do this. I don't know. I really can't tell you how.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's a lot of shit.
I'm sure.
Yeah, so, I can only imagine. Do you go to therapy as a therapist? I do. I
have a therapist, yeah.
Is that a part of I guess your job? Like if you are a therapist, are you supposed to get therapy so that you make sure you maintain like a steady mind?
You should, because if you don't get a therapist, then you're offloading on people who are close to you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You're telling your friends, your families, everything that probably you shouldn't be telling them. So you should process it. And I also have a supervisor, which is something that a lot of people don't know. As a therapist, you should have a supervisor. It doesn't mean that this person is telling you how to do your job, but it's somebody that you process information with. Like, hey, I have this case, I'm stuck. What would you do in my situation?
Okay.
Or hey, I had this patient that I absolutely hate. I tell it to this person.
Right.
And we just bounce ideas off of each other.
Now, do you have like a specific method of approach, or do you approach everyone differently? And I'm asking because when I went to therapy, my therapist, she would interject in moments where she needed to, but a lot of it was me like, outputting information, and I guess like getting it out there.
Right.
And then eventually she would give me, I guess, better tools to like utilize or how to figure out how to, combat the situation that I was discussing with her. But I know that now moving forward, I want somebody to be a little bit more interactive with me. So is there a specific method of approach that you use, or is it just you treat everyone different, I guess?
I want to say I have a method, but I also want to say I treat everybody different.
Okay.
So the method comes into, so when I see women and I see men, I kind of approach it a little differently, because women are more forthcoming. And they've processed, they've thought about what the issue is, what it is that's struggling, and they're able to just directly say it. But for men, and I noticed that a lot of men lack the language to say, this is what happened to me when I was 7, and I think it's affecting me today. Like I have to really dig that tunnel with them and walk them through their history so they can see all the things that are adjacent, all the things that are connecting, and then say, hey, this is it. This is why we're here today. So that's a little different. I do a lot more. I'm a lot more guidant and talking when I work with men. Women usually a little easier, and then couples I barely say much because
I can imagine.
Yeah, it's free flowing. I'm free flowing.
That's interesting, because that was actually my question. Is I think a lot of people, specifically Black, and then specifically Black men are very hesitant
Yes.
to go to therapy.
Yeah.
And like, do you think it's something that is for everyone? Or is it, you know, I mean, obviously, as is anything, you go to the gym and you just sit there and like not eat right. You're not going to lose the weight.
Yeah.
But like, I think with therapy in particular, you know, we watched this show called like Love and Marriage Huntsville, and the wife did like a surprise therapy session, and he's so mad about it. Like 2 weeks into the show, like he's still very mad, and you can see he has these like deep rooted issues that he just refuses to talk about, acknowledge, anything. So is it something that is for everybody, or
it is for everybody, but you can't be successful at it until you realize that you need it. Right? So you can send your friend or your cousin or your uncle or your dad to therapy, but if they feel like there's no issue with them, it's not going to be successful.
Yeah.
Right. Because then they're going to hold back too, I feel like.
They are going to hold back. They're not going to be brought in, and they're just not going to be present.
Right.
But back to your question, there is an approach. When I work with men, I'm really gentle, because I know for a fact that a lot of the clients that reach out to me, they say in the initial email, I've been thinking about this for a while. I think it's time now. And I can imagine how much it takes to sit in front of another man and tell him all this stuff that you've been dealing with, all the stuff that you haven't been able to talk about,
That you don't even know.
that you may not even know.
Right.
So like, I'm really gentle. I emphasize safe space. I work from a strength-based perspective, which I'm almost like patting you on the back for every small success, because that safe space is needed, or you're not going to feel comfortable. Right.
shit.
I be needing positive affirmation.
A lot of
I'm like,
positives.
yeah.
A lot.
What is that tweet that we? Yeah, I mean, I do feel like with men, you have to be, the approach has to be way more
delicate,
gentle, and way more delicate. Because actually, it was something that I saw yesterday, and it was a post on Spiritual World, and it said, "Why do men shut their partners out when they're going through stuff? It's unfair." And so all the responses vary from men saying everything to like, because at some point you'll use it against him, whether intentional or not.
Right.
Women, and then somebody said that it's unfair part is actually making it about the woman, not the man. And it's like, why don't men, come even with their partner? I'm not saying that's all men, but a lot of, and we're being specific with like black men. I feel like specifically do not unload and like talk about issues with their partner, where women, everything that happened in my work day, everything, like, and men, you're like, wait, what happened? What's going on?
Yeah.
But it stems from what society says being a man is, and also how black men are raised. A lot of the people that I see, and I'm going to keep using my clients as an example because those are the facts that I know, is that if dad is absent, mom is home, and it's you, and you're the man of the house.
Since she was 5.
Right, and with that comes certain sets of responsibilities. So you don't have the luxury or the privilege to be sad or to be struggling with something or to shut down, even as a kid. Yeah. So when you get older, it's manifested in ways where things are happening at work, things are happening at home, things are happening in society, but you can't stop to cry or stop to like let loose because you have responsibilities. And that's what, to them, that's what it looks like to be a man. Unfortunately, now I have to reteach these guys that this is not, it's easy, it's more courageous, and it's helpful for you to be able to shut down and say, hey, I need time out, I need to cry, or this is bothering me, and actually be able to use that in words and say, this is how I'm feeling.
Yeah. Right.
Because you can't, like, suppressing and holding everything in only leads to you self-sabotaging in somewhere, because now you're like, you're shutting off from your partner. She or he has no idea what you're dealing with. And what kind of relationship is that, Yeah. So it's a lot of these things go back to how you were raised and the examples that were set for you.
Which is wild, because that's very true. Like, I think, your parents think, sometimes that they've done what they could.
Yeah.
In terms of like raising you. And so when you do go through therapy, sometimes things come out that you didn't even know were an issue.
Right.
And this is how you move the way that you move. Like, I can even say for myself, like, I wasn't very expressive as a kid in terms of like just what I was going through. And so I think to what TT's talking about from that post from the spiritual world, you just kind of, what's the word? Compartmentalize. Thank y'all. And you kind of just deal with it on your own, and you like deal with it in your own space. But like when you're with somebody, you kind of have to share, and that's a learned experience for a lot of black men, because you didn't have to share what you were going through before with anybody, because no one asked.
Right.
you had to grow up fast.
You didn't get the space.
You didn't get the space. And just based off of like how you were taught to just like be a man. And so that's like learned behavior. Like that's some new 2021 shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's like, it's unlearning and like relearning. And I want everyone to give black men a little bit of grace with it, because I don't think we were.
That's fair.
We weren't equipped to talk about our feelings when we were young.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that is extremely, because I am so expressive. Like, this happened to me, da 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 da. And it's like, well, why aren't you like that? But I was also kind of raised that I had the luxury of being expressive, and if there was something wrong, I could talk about it. Like, everybody doesn't have that luxury. So how do you kind of get ahead of that, so we aren't creating these children that are suppressing and not, talking about things?
You say how? You mean how do people in general? How do we get ahead of that?
Yeah, like the younger generation.
I have a child. I have a 6-year-old.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
And yeah, it's really me saying, I know what I want for my child, my relationship with my child, and a lot of the stuff that I want is stuff that I didn't have. So like I was able to really sit there and say, this is what I hated about my childhood growing up, and this is what I don't want my son to have to deal with. And a lot of that is being emotionally vulnerable and being present and talking and hugging and telling him how much I love him and doing affirmations with him and just letting him know that it's okay to cry, it's okay to be upset. But once you're upset and you're crying, what comes with that is the language to tell me why you're upset.
Yeah, the why.
Right.
And then, once I was able to instill that in him, me and his mom, I'm not going to take credit for this alone, while we were able to instill that in him, it just opened up a whole lot, like the whole bunch of different things, because now he's extremely communicative, extremely affectionate, and he knows, like, hey, I don't want to give anybody a hug, and that's okay. You don't have to touch anybody. Nobody has to touch you.
I do that with my daughter is 3, and she is very like adamant. I mean, kids, they show up and show you who they are.
Exactly.
And it is very important that you like pay attention to that and allow them to be who they are. So like, if she don't want to speak, if she doesn't want to hug anybody, it's very clear.
She makes it very clear.
And I don't force it, but I'm like, dang, girl, you embarrassed me. Like, this show on, but okay. I get it.
That was another Twitter thread, though. And it was like, don't force if children don't want to give a hug. And you'd be like, give them a hug. And they're like, no, nigga, I'm showing you I'm not in the mood. Or whatever it is. Like, I don't want to do that. And then it's like, and I never, after reading that thread, I was like, damn, I never thought about it like that. Because so many times, like you said, it's like, girl, you embarrassing me. Go hug, auntie to whomever or whatever. Where those are still learned and instilled behaviors that you never even, I would have never thought about that.
And taking that to the next level, black households, if something happens in a house, a lot of the response is keep it in the house. Don't tell anybody.
Grew up with that.
So we're talking about like sexual abuse in the household, and this kid is like totally shut down, don't want to touch anybody, and you're like, go hug this person, go hug that person. It's like really traumatic. On top of teaching your children to keep their hands to themselves and don't let anybody touch them as they get older and older. So
so many mixed.
So many different.
They're very like, it's mixed messaging.
This is a whole new parenthood though. We like this is stuff that we're learning as we grow older. Our parents didn't know this. So
it's all learned experience is what happens, and which is why I think therapy is good for all, because everybody has something to talk about. And not everybody. Just like, just anything. Like, I think, we just go through things in our normal lives that we just don't talk about. But it's not because we don't want to. We're just moving. Right. And it's like, if I take a step back and actually sit with you maybe and be like, actually, that did bother me. Let me kind of think about this and like, why did it bother me? What happened afterwards? How can this not bother me later? So yeah, I think definitely it's beneficial for a lot of people.
Yeah, we were out, Daryl and I, and something happened, and I was like, I have to go back to therapy. Like, I said something to him that I was like, and I was like, what I just said to him is not okay. Right. It was like something that I was doing. And and I mean, in that instant, I was like, I have to go back, because even hearing it out loud when I said it to you, I was like, that sounds crazy as shit.
I told you sounded crazy. I don't even remember what it was.
Yeah, he was like, you sound really crazy, and I was like, there's some other shit going on that I have not unearthed or just I've never really tapped into. That I was like, I have to, like, it is a must. Like, I have to go back, because I think I got to a place. I only went to therapy this year. Maybe let's say I went for 7 months. And I felt like towards my last session, I was kind of like, well, girl, I'm good. I ain't really got nothing else to talk about. So I just stopped.
Same.
And now I'm like, girl, help
Yeah.
please. Yeah, now it's like, I'm literally hitting her. And I'm like, hey, actually, can we revisit this?
Yeah.
That I think, I think people think of it as like, okay, I'm gonna go and then I'm gonna just stop. Where it's stuff that can kind of come up, and and it's like, and it's okay that, like I said, that I whatever happened, and I was like, yeah, I gotta go back. We there's some healing that needs to happen. Dr. Tracy voice.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. And the same. And I feel like for me, I don't want to make my friends or my partner responsible for the issues, I guess, that I have. Like, I want to be able to download with somebody, and that way you can, because even if I do want to communicate something, there may be some things I want to communicate or share. There may be some things I don't. But I feel like it's not your friends or your partner's responsibility to take on all of your angst. And that was a personal problem that I had. So then I would be like, all right, well, I'm not just going to say anything, which is also even worse, So it's like, you can't bottle it up.
Damned if you
but
do,
it's
damned if you
important to
don't.
have somebody to kind of like download everything with, and not put that. That's a heavy pressure to put on anybody.
It is.
That's boundaries.
Who's not your therapist.
You can look at it as boundaries, having issues with boundaries where you feel like you have to unload on certain people, or and then if they say no, I'm not able to accept this, and you totally shut down. Yeah, it's like, damn, I need to figure out what my boundaries are.
Yeah, and that's for me. That was how I started going to therapy. Like, I was unloading on my partner the whole time. It was like, this isn't healthy, actually.
Yeah.
I actually had to talk to somebody rather than just unloading on him, because like now this is pressure on him because he probably feels like he has to either help or respond. Right. Yeah. And that's not really what I'm looking for necessarily, but like what else is he supposed to do?
Right.
So yeah, it was definitely helpful when I sought it.
We're going to get back. Listen, we all going to go back to therapy. Well, we're going to take a second. We're going to pay some bills.
Oh, yeah.
So we decided to get a little personal today. I'm gagging because I'm still trying to get my stuff together, child. I'm like, let me dab my forehead. So we were like, what can we do on this episode with you? And so we decided to do like a little mini therapy session, not amongst, ourselves. We don't have any issues with collectively ourselves.
Yeah, because I don't really like them. Like, look, how we both jump in like, I mean, shit, the way you was texting me earlier.
Am I the problem? Clearly. That's what I'm joking. Okay, so the common denominator.
Fraction.
Right? Like what? And so we individually, there were things that we were going to speak about, and kind of, what was the word I kept using? Therapize. Yeah. We did not know if therapize was a real word or not.
And then
I don't think it is.
It is.
Therapize?
Yes, I looked it up. It comes in the dictionary. I'm going to do it again. I did this 3 weeks ago,
I believe you. I'm sure you did the
Urban Dictionary?
No, I believe in Urban Dictionary. That is for white people. Urban Dictionary. No, I told y'all it's here. Therapize. So I'm trying to pull it up.
I know what it means just hearing it, but I didn't realize it was an actual word.
It's an actual word.
Like therapize.
Wow.
Come on now.
I can't find it again. My finger.
It sounded like a word.
Yeah. So,
what's the definition for that?
I don't think it means therapy. Subject to psychological therapy. You don't need to therapize or fix each other. It's a verb.
Oh, it's like
that's what we were being therapized. It's like, I don't know if that. Therapized. Yeah. Oh, that actually is past participle. So, anywho, now we're getting into more King's English.
Welcome to grammar school.
I know, right? I could do the words. It's when we start talking about them fractions and shit. I get a little.
Yeah, I hate math too.
Anxiety. So who wants to go first? Not me.
I'll go first.
Okay.
Go first.
Let's see. So I live in New York.
Okay.
I'm originally from Baltimore. I've lived here for almost 10 years now, which is kind of crazy to me. Like, wow, it's been that long. Because I don't live with my family, like my intermediate family, a lot of things is over like text message, phone calls, FaceTime, and things like that. And I'm a person that, like, if I got to get shit done, I'm gonna do it. I don't need nobody to help me. I'm gonna make it happen. I don't even need opinions. I've been getting it out the mud by myself. I don't need help.
Okay.
And so with that, when you're not seeking help from people or you don't want feedback from people, you also are not telling people what is happening.
Right.
Because you don't need the opinion. So like, why do I feel like I need to like check in to let you know like, oh, I'm looking at going and doing this job, or, oh, I got a promotion at work, or oh, I'm working on this cool thing. But what I've realized now is that it's actually not helpful in those relationships because I'm almost excluding them from pivotal moments in my life because I'm not necessarily in my mind seeking help for these moments. And it's actually not helping those relationships. It's actually hurting. But when I think about my interactions with my family, it's like, even when I give bits and pieces of these things, it's very short in what the responses are about me. They turn it around about them. So I stop talking about myself.
Okay.
So now I'm in this place around like, I don't even give y'all nothing. And I feel like it's hurting relationships. So I'm trying to get better at like not internalizing them changing the conversation because I don't need help from them.
Is it that you don't need help or you don't want help?
Both.
Okay. And you've thought this out, like, I can do something like this without any input from
them, yeah.
them. And then you've never had a situation where you did something and you go and you went, I wish I would have reached out earlier and let somebody know what the process was.
No.
Okay. No, I mean that's perfect. That's great. But you saying you're internalizing it. Why do you think you're internalizing it?
Because it's something that I think about. Just be like, like if something happens, like, oh, I should have maybe told my mother this was going on.
I just asked you that.
But like it's like in hindsight. It's not like wow, it's
not why
happening.
you're doing it. So okay, so sticking with that in hindsight, when something like that happens, what do you do? How do you settle it within yourself?
It's like a thought that comes across, and then I'm still not. That's it. It's more of like a thought, like, damn, I should have probably mentioned this, but like that moment has passed. So now we probably are talking about something else.
Okay,
probably dealing with her, but
when next time when that comes up, challenge yourself to actually reach out and tell your mom what you did, which was I'm pretty sure it was successful, which is why it's easy for you to talk about it.
Right.
Tell your mom what you did and tell your mom that, hey, after I did what I did, I was thinking it would have been awesome or cool to have you as part of it, or at least help you guide me through the early phases of whatever it is that you would. Whatever that thought that you had.
But what if I already know what I'm supposed to do? That's the problem.
But this is you building relationship though, right?
I know, yes.
So you don't necessarily need the help, but you don't want to exclude the people.
Right.
So even if you do your own thing, having that conversation, which may seem like a waste of time to you, but it's not, because you're building these relationships and you're fostering these relationships. So just say, hey, I'm working on this project. What do you think about so and so? Even if you already know what you're gonna do,
right?
Hear them out and then.
It's still bringing them into the conversation to build the relationship, not necessarily for help in that moment.
Anything else, right? Because that also opens the door for everything else that you want to do or any conversations that you want to have.
Right.
And I would encourage you to challenge them as well when you bring something up and they turn it to make it about themselves. I would encourage you to call that out, because if you keep doing that, eventually they'll realize what they're doing. It's probably just second nature where they're not realizing that I'm making this about me.
I was going to ask that. Do you call that out?
Yeah, you should definitely say, hey.
I should. I don't. Because it's like a catch up, and then it's like, it's also your mother. So it's like, I'm just listening kind of thing.
Yeah. But you want these
She's
conversations.
She's a Virgo, so it's like me.
But you want these conversations to be fruitful.
Right.
Right. So you want to call it out. You want to control it, because this is all about what it is that you're going with.
Okay. That was my little mini session.
Okay. Are you going to do it?
No, I'm going to do it because it's been on my mind, like lately, even more so, just because of like my surrogacy journey as well as moving. Like, it's just so many moving parts that I have right now, but like I'm also planning in advance for all of these moving parts. But I think she should be a bit closer to it. And it's not necessarily just my mom, but like that's the one person I'm thinking of in particular. But I just have to do a better job. But also, I'm always like being a little bit of a brat, like no one's asking either.
And did she know about them?
Yeah.
These things? Okay.
Yeah. So
you see the dichotomy in that? You don't say anything to them, and then you like, damn, nobody's asking.
Right.
Yeah.
But it has to be me.
It does, because they've gotten so used to not interjecting and not being part of that, they're not gonna ask.
Right.
You have to start bringing them back in, since you kind of like separated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord, it's giving the miseducation. It's the miseducation
Of Dee Dee?
Of Dee Dee. Of the Oprah Rose show.
The best education of the Upper Road
I
Show.
can't.
It's the mystery of iniquity. Wrong album.
Oh, but
yeah.
that was a song.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I actually love that live album.
It slept on.
It really is.
Sis was going through it.
She's still going through it.
Forever and ever.
Well, who's next?
Go.
I guess I'll go. This is kind of heavy, I guess, but I don't intend for it to be. So I am a survivor of abuse as a child. And as a parent now, I am very cautious about who is around my kid.
Okay.
But I don't live in New York. I live in LA, and I have one family member there, and outside of her dad, my kid's dad. And so, we share the responsibilities of her. But as you know, as a parent yourself, it takes a village to raise your kid and to provide for them, and But I have a hard time relinquishing help, because I live in that fear of her experiencing abuse. And
what's the question?
I guess my question is, I need a nanny help, but I'm hesitant to press that button because my mind automatically goes there.
The first question that came to mind was, can you tell me what type of abuse you suffered from? You don't have to go into details.
Both types.
When you say both, there's more than two. So you're talking about emotionally and physical?
Yes.
Okay. Emotionally and physical at the hands of, is that too much?
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. So what I would encourage you to do is, are you in therapy?
No, not anymore.
Okay, so I would definitely, first I would encourage you to go into therapy and start talking about this abuse. But the biggest thing that
I've talked about that abuse in therapy before.
Okay.
So
but it's still...
No, I mean, I guess it does show up because I'm that is the fear that I live in. It's
right.
I won't push the button to try to find help.
Right.
Because I think oh my God, if something happens to my kid, I'm going to kill this person.
Right. But
Which is dramatic.
This is your trauma response happening because now you're in overdrive in regards to being protective. But you also want to realize that just because this person did this to you doesn't mean that person's going to do that to her.
Right.
And that's easier said than done.
Absolutely.
But that is the literal black and white facts of it. So you really have to get yourself in a place where you say you need to start working on trusting people, because if you don't start trusting people, that's gonna rub off on her.
Really?
Yeah, it will, 100%. Because if you don't ever let anybody get near your daughter in regards to loving her and protecting her and helping take care of her, she's not gonna be as open to help or even open to love as you would want her to.
Okay.
So that's going to be a struggle for her. But she's only 3, so you have some time. But I really want you to take some time and deal with the trauma, because that trauma is still prevalent and it's affecting all kinds of relationships that you're probably interested in forming with other people, for yourself and for your daughter.
Okay.
When a black woman says,
right, yeah, right.
Is that a good mac and cheese or you hitting the emotional button?
It was I heard.
Right. A word.
Yeah. But absolutely think about it and talk about it. But it's really you're safe because you're no longer in that setting.
Right.
So keep telling yourself, I am safe. I'm no longer where I was when I was abused. The person that abused me is no longer in my life and is not going to abuse my child.
Yeah, I think it just fucked me up a little bit when you said that is what I'm teaching her, to not trust people.
Kids, they pick up on everything. They're so intuitive.
Yes, I completely agree.
Yeah. So what you might notice is that if this continues 3 years from now, when you have somewhere to go and you have nobody, and you put her with somebody, she's gonna have a hard time staying there, and you're gonna have a hard time leaving her there.
Right.
Even if it's somebody that you absolutely trust, it's going to be hell for both of you. And then you have to unteach that, which may be even harder.
Right. The unlearning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That was good.
Yeah. All of these undoings.
It's a lot of undoing.
So many undoings.
And so the thing that I say the most is be curious. When I say be curious, I mean anything that you're feeling, anything that you hear, anything that is going through your mind, ask yourself why. if you're looking at things from a curious perspective, you're more likely to sit down with yourself and really answer these questions. Even if you have to write down, hey, I'm anxious today because I'm flying to New York and I'm not sure who's watching Baby Girl. Write that down. Why am I so anxious about this? Who do I trust? And then just process everything by yourself, but just be so curious about all your feelings. It'll help you maneuver it a lot faster than you not looking into it or trying to talk about it.
Right.
So do you believe that like journaling is good?
Journaling is amazing. I use journaling for clients who suffer a lot from self-sabotage and low self-esteem. And I always say keep a gratitude journal, because it's easier to say this is not going well, than it is to say, oh man, I had a Coke today and it was mad good. Yeah. Because we take I hate Coke, but example. It's easy to identify what's not going well, especially when you're depressed or you feel with anxiety and all this stuff is happening, then it is for you to identify something that's good. So it's really just to build a habit of wake up every day or before you go to bed, open your journal and find something that was really positive today. Something that you want to be grateful for, something that's gratitude worthy of for you, and just write it down and do that every single day. And before you know it, when you're in a funk or when you're going through a depression spell, it's easy for you already trained yourself to look for a positive, something positive that's happening in your day, or something that you appreciate, something that you want to be grateful for.
Oh, got it. So that's like basically it's teaching you to create a habit.
Yes, it's teaching you to create a habit
of looking at the glass half full.
Yes,
I have an alarm that goes off every day, like to say thank you about whatever is happening for me in that moment.
That's perfect. Do you keep up with it?
I keep up with it.
Excellent.
And when I see, because it's an alarm, so I got to turn it off. It happened already today, but we were recording. But thank you for this moment that we're in right now, the recording. Thank you for the kind words that you're giving us. Sure. But it does remind me, because I can be a very anxious person, not necessarily saying anxiety.
It forces you to slow down, right?
But it forces me to slow down and not be so like planning forward and like ground me in this moment. You know how people always say like they gotta like take their shoes off and like stand on the ground to be grounded. Like me remembering where I am and being like thankful is like grounding me.
Right.
I think I need to change mine, because I was kind of like the reverse. I was journaling last year every day. At the top of the before I would start the actual entry, I would write down 3 things I was grateful for that day. But then I felt like my journal entries were so redundant. Like, I mean, I don't care if I look back from 6 months prior to December, it was like the same entry. So I essentially stopped. Okay. I have not journaled in literally since December, and I do try to do like an end of the year thing of, I used to be like that, new year, new me, I'm a new bitch. And it was like, bitch, it's giving the same person. It's giving the same girl. So
that's not a bad thing sometimes though. Being the same person.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I never saw any growth in it, honestly. And now saying this out loud, that's why I was like, well, I don't need to journal no more.
What was the purpose of you journaling, the initial purpose?
Child, I don't even remember. Probably read it somewhere, saw it somewhere.
Well, so that's it. Because if you're purposely doing it for a reason, that reason is always going to be forefront of your mind, so you know why you're doing it and you can see the differences. But if you're just doing it because it's somebody said journal, like, why am I writing what happened?
Why am I doing that? Yeah. Huh. Yeah. So then I need to find a purpose to journal.
It has to be intentional.
Okay.
Intention.
And that's so fair. Right, we keep talking about intention.
That damn word keeps showing up.
I don't know. Like, now I'm really even thinking like, what would be, I guess, to unload and process, and it literally made me feel like, well, I'm literally in the same place 6 months. Like, this is 6 months of the same shit. So like I said, that's why I stopped. So I need a new focus.
Can I ask a question? Mm-hmm. When you journal, what do you do? Like, how do you journal?
Literally, like, I think one of them was like, "Hey, God, it's Judy Bloom."
No,
like,
not even necessarily like how you write it, but like, are you like home? Are you in your room?
Yes, I'm home. Always in my bed.
Okay.
I was trying to do at night. I never did the morning. I'm always late. So at night, in my bed specifically.
That's the key. You say you're always late in the morning. That could be something that helps you not be always late in the morning. Because now you know you need to do something before you get ready for whatever your day brings. Mm-hmm. So you set that time, you do that, and then you have the rest of your time because you're already up.
Yeah.
Your issue is probably you sleep late or you just stay in the bed and don't want to get up.
Yeah, that's it. I just stay in the bed, don't
So
wanna
if you
get up.
say this 30 minutes here, I have to do this, and then I have the rest of 30 minutes to get ready or hour to get ready. That's you're saying what's the word I'm looking for?
Precedent.
Thank you. Yes.
That sound like morning pages too.
Yeah, because like my mother, for instance, takes like an hour to 30 minutes to an hour every single solitary morning to have prayer and meditation. And
She needs it though.
She like goes in the bathroom and she whatever. I don't know what she's doing there, to be honest. Like I think
But
she
it's
reading
her
Bible
moment, her
scriptures.
space.
But yeah,
It's so amazing.
Yeah,
Her
exactly.
day without that would probably be chaotic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've tried meditation and my mind just go. I like immediately I start thinking about usually work or something that hasn't happened or something that needs to be done and like
you gotta train yourself.
like how do you even still
But I
your
like
mind?
the idea of doing it in the morning and almost like setting yourself up for the day.
The day,
So
yeah.
like I was asking you that because I've now started like I get ready an hour before, almost like what your mother's doing, but I didn't realize it. I don't realize it because it's just a habit for me now.
Yeah.
Whereas like for an hour before I'm actually like getting ready, I don't respond to text messages. I don't look at phone calls, emails. I have to be in silence. And like I'm making like my little lemon ginger tea. I'm making a breakfast.
Wow.
You're like morning rituals.
Morning rituals to like just wake me up. And then wherever like my mind goes and like that morning, I just let it go because it's so quiet. Like Six's Poppy's probably still at the gym. Yeah, he's still at the gym. And so it's just me and the dog and literally like just silence. I don't even listen to music. I don't want nothing. Like just literally silence. And so if I wanted to journal, I could probably journal. I could probably fit that in. Because now you're making me think, because I used to journal too. Mm-hmm. And I kind of stopped, but I don't remember why I stopped. But like, I mean, I could probably fit that in if that was something that I wanted to be intentional about. But I like the idea of you doing that in the morning because you also are doing more at night now. Mm-hmm. If you think about your life in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, you're exhausted by the time you get home.
Exhausted. And I think like what you said about the phone, I wake every single, I don't care if it's today. I don't care if it's
I don't think you'll ever be able to do an hour, but like if you could even do like 15 minutes.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think every day I'm dealing with something from work. Right. Every single solitary day. There's no weekends. No, it's quiet. Like, and I mean, this morning, and it's the first thing I do, right? So I pick my phone.
You did get a phone call.
That's draining.
And that wasn't even that. It's
at
very
10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, that was
Sunday about
on a Sunday,
So
and that wasn't even what I'm talking about. I mean, like I wake up every single solitary morning to something about like, and I saw it at maybe like 5, and I was like, I'm gonna wait to respond, and then I went back to sleep. And I was like, I'm gonna go back to sleep. So I went back to sleep.
Did you handle it today?
Yeah.
If you didn't handle it today, would Monday be too late for it? Would something terrible happen?
That is a good point. Because there was like 5 things this morning. 2 of them I did not respond. Mm-hmm. The other 3 it was quick, and I think because I was like half asleep, it was something else, and I was like, wait a minute, that I typically do. I try not to respond until Monday because it's like, and I've kind of had to say that it's like, hey, it's the weekend. I was gonna say you have to set boundaries. Yeah, and I only just recently got there that I was like, all right, I have to start setting boundaries of this does not require a response. You are not going to get a response from me until Monday morning. Like this is not anything that's urgent. Like I told somebody one day, I was like, don't even send it because it's not, I'm not even going to see it. I just got there and it's like, and I know I have to start setting up some boundaries because like I said, there's never, I don't care if it's 12 a.m., 1 a.m. I mean, it's going to come. There's literally never an off time. Like you said that call this morning, I'm like, why this man is calling me about t-shirts? Yeah. What? So I do like the idea of starting the mornings off like a little bit more calm because like.
And for you.
Yeah, for me. You know, of even like that's why I know I have to get back into working out because that was my hour. It was like nobody can bother me. Like this is my hour. I bought ashwagandha. It don't work, but you know I take it every morning because my eye would just be twitching. I would just sitting there, and I was like, I'm going to drill myself into a hole, like just continuing to do what I'm doing. So yeah, I'm gonna start this like.
Yeah, if you don't create your boundaries, people will impose their lack of boundaries on you.
Yeah,
and that'll make you so miserable.
Yeah.
Like I would even set a away message up.
People don't care.
It don't matter if they don't care.
Yeah, this is true. I did that. It's like it's setting your boundaries.
You're gonna adhere to it.
Yeah, because I don't like. I go on vacation. I don't. Even
and they'll say I won't respond until Monday morning.
Yeah.
And so it don't matter what you think is important. It'll wait till I don't know if you get paid on weekends on Sundays, but most people don't from a typical 9 to 5. So I'm not responding to your email on Sunday.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a simple thing to do around just putting on a fucking out of office.
Yeah.
And that's the issue.
I mean, not even
text.
people
Text. I was about to say,
all mine and all mine are
true.
text. They like, so that's why I said I see it. Like, I don't really sleep all the way through the night. So if I wake up, I see it at like 3, 4, and then I gotta remember. Like, and then I'll pin it to the top. Like, I know, you know how some people use their pinned messages for like the top people that they talk to. I never knew that. I use it as reminders. My pinned people
stressful
are literally, all right, I gotta respond to this and I gotta do this, and they're nothing but reminders. They're not. My mother ain't in my pin top. Like, it's all reminders that it's like, and sometimes I don't realize, and I think I was the person that I was taking it out on my partner, and I did not know how to, and this was pre this job, and I was just like blowing up over everything, and that's when I think I first was like, maybe we should get some help, because it's not okay to. I mean, I was like freaking out over chicken not being taken out of the freezer, and we literally broke up about this.
About
woman. Chicken not being taken. Yeah,
A black
mind you, there was no chicken in the goddamn freezer anyway.
Oh wow!
Did all this, and then I remember when I went to go get it, I was like, "Well, where the fuck is the chicken?" And I was like, "It ain't even no chicken in here." Oh my god!
I done lost my man.
And it was over frozen chicken.
That wasn't even there.
That wasn't even there, and I was like, "Okay, sis, you're crazy." So going into now,
this chicken
wasn't even there. Going into now, it's like I try to be very mindful of it, to not talk, because I could talk about it 80% of the conversation. And then you were saying the thing about setting boundaries, and then, I mean, he kind of asked me to like stop talking about it as much, and I was very offended.
I was gonna ask you that. How did
I was
that feel?
very offended.
Yeah.
He asked you to stop talking about work as much?
Yeah. And I was kind of like, I don't ask you to stop talking about work. Like, and I was immediately on the defense. And it wasn't until a week later or something where I was like, because every time I would say it, I'd be like, let's say I would start to talk about it. And I was like, I can't talk about it. You don't care. And that's how I took it, as like, you don't care. But I think it was just like, he's like, it's a lot. Like, you know, just all of the time.
Did it make you realize that every time you wanted to talk to him, that's what it was about?
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
That could take the romance out of.
Because it became, because there's a Family or Fiance episode about a couple that they worked together, and so all they did was talk about work. And I think for me, because it is so prevalent in my life, it more so made me say like, oh, I really got to set up these boundaries,
Right?
Because it's like, it's literally taking over my life. In every aspect of, like, if my mother calls, I can't answer because I'm on the phone, or like, you know, the other day my father called me like 3 times, every single solitary time I was on the phone, like every time, and I'm like, well, wait a minute now, what if something is, and I'm dealing with a death in my family, and I'm like, wait a minute, why didn't I get off this damn phone call, like specifically knowing what's happening, you know, on my family side. And I was like, yeah, I gotta go, and like call my mother back, and was like, again, setting up these boundaries, I think is something that like I have to do for my other relationships, and you know, and myself.
And I also think it's also,
first.
yeah, put yourself first, and like hand off some of this shit to other people now.
True.
I know, but you can't take it all on by yourself.
Yeah, we'll get there. We shall get there.
You've unpacked some things from us,
Right.
mister.
I'm glad. I'm so happy about that. That's really good. So you guys have some stuff to think about, and it's, you know, it's probably stuff that you knew already, but it always hits different when somebody else says it, and you have to sit down and like, damn,
And saying it out loud.
and saying it out loud. Yes,
Yeah.
that's why affirmations are so important, because
Right.
you're saying it out loud and you're hearing it, not just reading it in a book.
Yeah. So how far do you think you should go specifically with like a parent or a partner when stuff is bothering you? Because I mean, obviously there's a line of like, you don't want it to be hurtful or harmful, but it's like, if it's something that's like, hey, this is really bothering me, like, are there levels and boundaries to that of expressing, you know, what it is that what is bothering you?
When you say levels, we're talking about just straight communication, right? Not like you getting upset and throwing a dish at the wall.
Yeah. I think communication, or even let's say you have very different styles of how. Okay, we can take all the way back. You have very different styles of how you were raised. So obviously that is then going to spill into how you interact with each other.
Yes.
So then you have that coupled with how you were raised, and then you just have specifically like two very different people on how you see things. And it's like, well, I'm all the way over here and you all the way over here. And sometimes it feels like you can just never get here.
It's hard.
Yeah, a compromise, literally. Like, how does one even get there?
So I think it's important that you identify that there are two different styles of communication. And I always say this, the way you communicated as a child kind of somewhat mirrors the way you communicate now. Because as a child, if you shut down, you're shutting down as an adult. If you got upset and you yelled and you slammed the door, you're storming off as an adult. Yeah. It's just evolving and you're still carrying on the same principles of it.
True.
It's very true. Yeah. It just
You still storming off?
No, I shut down. But
you
as a
still
kid,
shut down.
I went
you
quiet.
said that.
That was just
Yeah.
that was
You
just
said that
safe.
earlier.
That's how you felt safe.
Wow.
But when you actually realize that my partner here needs to talk about certain things, and you're like, I like to shut down. That's not effective.
Oh, that ain't effective.
That's
at
not
all.
effective, and you may not be effective. Just because you like to talk about it doesn't mean you're right, right? Because sometimes he may need to process, so he may need to take a walk or come back to you tomorrow afternoon. Like, look, I'm ready
This
to
might
have
be
this
a little too
conversation.
long now.
I've thought about it. It depends.
Okay.
It depends on what it is.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not, I don't want to say you only have 10 minutes to think about it and come back and talk to me.
Yeah. Right.
Some people really have to go through a gambit of emotions before they can sit down with a calm head and have a
Okay, that's
conversation.
fair.
But the one thing I will say is that never subject your partner to a silent treatment.
Okay, and I think that is very important because people will scapegoat and say, well, I wasn't ready to talk about that, but use the silent treatment as...
Or stonewalling.
Right.
Yeah, it's a emotional abuse. It's a form of abuse, and it's unfair because now you're just sitting in the house and it's like a war zone.
Yeah.
Nobody's talking and you feel like you're wrong when you're not the one who's wrong.
Cut the air
He
with a knife.
He or she just doesn't know how to communicate, and you have to deal with that.
Right.
So the easiest way to say is, hey, I don't think I'm ready to have this conversation right now. Can we come back and talk about this? Set a time, set a day. Don't just say, let's come back and talk about this later on, because now you're like, I need to talk about this.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Not
there has
all
to be
anxious.
right.
And
exactly.
And coupled with being a control freak and super type A. It's like, well, when?
Right.
Yeah.
So you
that's the
you can say, look,
compromise.
let's come back later on during dinner or even after work tomorrow. Let's go to bed. But we are not going to be actively mad at each other right now while we're thinking about what we need to talk about.
Yeah.
Because that's toxic.
I love that.
I do too. Oh, child, I'm gonna put this in my notebook.
That's some real
What do we
compromise
like?
in there.
It's a lot of compromise, but relationships don't work if you don't compromise.
Very true.
They don't
Can you
work.
say that again?
No,
It's
I'm not saying
true.
that.
It's
Relationships
true.
don't work if you don't compromise. It's very.
You have to.
That's like almost.
I mean,
the bare minimum.
sometimes you can compromise a little too much, but
But that's not
you know.
compromising anymore, then, right?
Then what is that?
Now you're giving shit away. You're giving up. That's, compromise is the person has to meet you somewhere. Everybody has to feel a little uncomfortable
Right.
for it to be a compromise.
A little uncomfortable.
A little uncomfortable. Like if you don't talk, you have to say, okay, I'm gonna talk a little bit. I'll talk later.
Right.
Yeah.
And you go and you're like, I need to talk immediately. You go, well, okay, I'll give you some time to think about it and we'll come back together later.
Yeah.
You're both compromising.
Right.
Not if you're extremely happy about it, but you know
Right.
the end result
We're
is gonna
doing
be-
we're doing this for the other.
We're equally unhappy about it.
Right.
We're doing this for each other.
Right.
For the
Eventually,
greater good.
The greater good. At the end of the day, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, child.
And I went through all of that though, but I've also been around a relationship for 7 years, and now we're at that point. Like we've done silent treatments, we've done not saying anything, talk about this later, like all of that. And so now we're at a good place where communication kind of just flows easily because you almost can see what the other person's thinking at this point. Like I almost see when you go somewhere, and I was like, well, now what's going on? Yeah.
That's beautiful.
It is.
Yeah. It's annoying too because why you got to see that my mood changed? Damn.
No, I think that's
just
being
changed
very in
without having to
tune.
talk about it.
I think that's being very in tune with
Yeah.
your partner. You know, like
Right.
I think that's beautiful. That
It
it's
is.
like like
I
you
don't
said, I
take it
see
for
it without
granted.
nonverbal. You don't have to say
Right.
anything, and I know like you're uncomfortable.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't take it for granted. No.
No, that's beautiful.
But all these things that we're talking about are going to happen, and you cannot be anxious about them happening because you have to go through them to, I guess, get to that point where you are a bit more intuitive with what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to do the work, y'all. We are all going to do the work.
Yes.
And yeah. Woo, child. Yeah, drag me. Compromise is my key take. Let me tell you something. Screaming shit. That shit from the motherfucker. I already have. This is conversation number 69.
And reiterate what you are giving up so that they see that it is the compromise.
This is literally the 10th conversation. So.
Yes.
And intent was the other one too.
Absolutely.
Intentional compromise.
Because I do want you to take those moments for yourself, because I know you can.
Yeah.
And I know you should.
Yes.
And I know you will.
We know you will.
Let's give it
Speaking life into her.
Look,
right?
Look directly into her.
Affirmation, child. Yes,
You deserve, sis.
You is kind. You is smart.
Yeah. You will create boundaries.
Right. Shit.
I have a friend who told me when you say put things in threes, people pay attention more.
Okay.
Isaiah.
Yeah, you was kind. You was smart. I forgot the third, but yeah.
Loyal.
Important.
Whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
One of them.
I love that. Well, Tosin, we have closing show questions for you. Okay. So what would you tell your younger self?
Wow. I've never thought about this question. And I always ask clients this, and I never thought about this for myself.
Yourself?
Wow.
What would I tell my young... I think it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. You're going to be fine. There's a lot of anxiety growing up. I'm Nigerian, so having traditional Nigerian parents, a whole bunch of stuff that I wanted that I didn't get, stuff that I felt like I was missing out on. It's like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Life is fine.
My partner's parents are Nigerian, so I hear about it.
Yeah, life is okay. It's going to be okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they're different now, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And what do you know for sure?
What do I know for sure? Wow. I know I'm a great dad for sure. No questions asked.
You sound like it.
Yeah, I know for a fact that I'm a great dad.
That household's probably so healthy.
If this is anything I know I'm a good dad.
So damn healthy.
It's so healthy, yes.
That's what's up.
I love that. And where can people find you?
Instagram at Therapy4's bios, the number 4, and my website is in the Instagram link. It's the www.therapy4'sbios.com.
Love it.
And where do you do therapy in New York, in Brooklyn?
Yes, I do it. I do it in my apartment, and everything is teletherapy, so I can see anybody from anywhere in New York.
You booked? You booked up? You said all black.
I'm getting
black
there,
men.
but
yeah.
I'm getting there. It's hard to say no, but I'm getting there.
Do you accept insurance?
I don't accept insurance. I don't accept insurance, but I also have. Actually, most of the people I know don't accept insurance.
Dude, I've never been to a therapist that does. Remember I told you I was going to that one lady?
It's a lot of,
I was like, girl, what? I can't even afford you.
Right. There's a lot of reasons why we don't accept insurance.
I'm sure.
Well, insurance is a scam.
It's a scam, and they try to cap your earnings. It's a lot of stuff.
Okay, understood. Okay. Well, do you do Klarna?
Afterpay.
Was it paying 4 sessions?
Right, exactly. Paying 4 sessions. Oh my God. Is there anything else you want to plug or mention?
No, I think I just want everybody to get into therapy, or at least start to exercise language and communication in whatever relationship that they're in.
Yeah.
Just challenge yourself a little bit when it comes to being more open to conversation about stuff that's stressing you out.
Yeah. Agreed. I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, child, you need to just put that on the wall somewhere. So the ending quote is: get honest with people about who you are, what you want, and how you expect to be treated. Standards only scare off people not meant for you.
Wow.
That's real.
Read me.
Get real. It's time to. Who says that? It's like get real, get something.
I don't know.
I don't know. What's the
like
real
a
world
hair
slogan?
commercial?
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, I can't think of it now. Tosin, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for
This was
having me.
great.
Of course. Absolutely.
Oh, we
Thanks for having me.
uneducate or whatever the word is, miseducate. Why can't I say it?
I don't know, but
miseducation. Yeah, I'm like miseducate.
Oh, Miseducation of the Oprah Rose Show, which is going to be the title of the show.
This is definitely going to be the title of the show. So we thank you.
But we thank you, especially being a black man in the therapy space.
Yes.
We don't see you often, and we salute you and what you're doing for the community.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you. That means a lot. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye, y'all.